Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Marwell Manor for the final day of spring. Getting our fertiliser pallets loaded up here because we need to fertilise our crops. Some of them are getting quite advanced in their growth stages, so this absolutely has to happen today or else we risk the possibility of not being able to fertilise them at all. There we go, let's get these over and above. Got a few fertiliser pallets left over from last year that we're going to use first of all. This will put around about 3,500 litres, maybe nearly 4,000 litres in our spreader to start with. That's a good starting amount. I don't want to end up spending way more on fertiliser than I need to, so we won't be adding anything in until this has all been used up. That way we can kind of gauge roughly how much we're going to need. Of course, we're not going to be done with our fertilising today. We won't be fertilising field 18 today because there's no growth on the fields yet, but we will be getting those done, I think, probably tomorrow. But today we will be spreading fertiliser on fields 15, 1 and the half of field 19 that we converted over to cropland. So a little bit of work to do, and then once that's done we get to go and play with our brand new extractor down at the BGA. Now there have been a couple of little changes at the BGA which you'll see a little bit later, and put a call in to Eurotunnel and said, I've got one of your units but it's just not got enough clearance for me to be able to get my bales in and unloaded before I hit the roof of the canopy at the front. And they said, don't worry, we can fix that. And they came down and they actually took up the old unit and installed a new unit for me. There was a little bit of cost involved, but I kind of managed to part exchange the old unit against the new unit, so it didn't break the bank, so to speak. So we do have a new taller unit available for us to store our bales in. And then we got all those bales put in there last night and connected up. There we go. And as you can see, I've put skinny wheels on both the 6M and the Breedle unit here to avoid doing any damage to our crops. So the BGA is kind of done and ready and waiting for us, and we'll be heading down there to wrap those bales a little bit later. But first things first, we do need to make a start on our fields over here. So it's a little bit dark still. I don't know how long it's going to take me to fertilise all three of those fields. Potentially a fair few hours, which is why I wanted to get started early, because we've got a lot of bales to wrap and that's going to take quite a lot of time as well. Plus, if there is time, I also need to make sure that I've got my cows taken care of, and on top of that I also need to, let's see which could be the best way for us to start. I think if we start at the far end over there actually. Plus I also need to look at making sure my greenhouses get topped up again today as well. So a fair little bit of work that needs to get done. Some of it might have to happen off camera. We'll see how long it takes us to get through these fields first of all. This is where the big bulk of our time is going to be used up, I think. And because the crops are getting quite thick, it's going to make seeing the visual difference of where we sprayed a little bit tricky, so I will be using workers to help me out with my fertilising where I can. Of course, if they're going to just say, nope, I'm done after a few feet, then of course we're going to have a few issues, but we'll see how it goes. There we go, we'll just run down here like so, and if we straighten up about here, there we go. So if we take a quick look at our overview page down here, there you can see is the final application of fertiliser getting applied to our fields. There's going to be a little bit of a patch there that we need to do, and I need to be careful when it comes to this bit as well. There is that little pathway along the edge of the field there that you can see that we put in place to allow us to access the corn as it grows in, so that we can get that chaffed. You can just about make out a thin darker line. It's really tricky to see. We can just about make out that darker line where the crops are fertilised against where they're not fertilised, and it's really tricky to see because of two reasons. One, because of the growth of the crops, and two, when you go overhead you get that extra sort of circle of detail, which just makes it even harder to see anything at all, even with, you know, better sunlight. You know, as it gets later into the day, we're still going to have that issue of not really being able to see where has been sprayed and where hasn't been spread. So, you know, getting a worker to help us out here is absolutely the way forward for us to go. It's just going to be way too difficult to actually see those changes ourselves on a consistent basis. Try and stay as straight as I can, and I want to make sure I get good full coverage across the field, because, you know, we don't have a lot of fields, so we are really dependent on a small amount of crop. Therefore we need to make sure that the crop that we do have is getting that proper fertilising treatment. Otherwise we are potentially just wasting quite a bit of potential income. So we'll just straighten out along the top here. Again, we're going to be wasting a little bit while we get this border pass done, but making sure that we have that clean edge all the way around the field that's got good coverage is the important part. Then we can do the rest in between. So fields 15, 1 and 19 are the target of our fertilisation today. 18, we'll wait until we get a little bit of growth, and then we'll give them a sort of a mid-growth bump. So that'll probably happen tomorrow or the day after, as we get into our summer period. That's when we'll start to fertilise the corn and the soybean. And again, we only need one stage of fertiliser to be applied, because we got a stage of fertiliser essentially for free, because we put down an OSR cover crop, and then cultivating that in gave us our first stage of fertiliser. So that's going to save us some cash, you know, across the year. Not necessarily a massive amount, but the cost of the seed certainly outweighs the cost of the fertiliser. So we're just finishing off field 15. This is the first of the 3 fields that needs to be done. And you can see all that's left, just this little thin piece just here. Then we'll move over to field 1. This is going to be a significantly harder field. I mean, you can kind of, in places, you can kind of tell where we have sprayed and where we haven't on this. But it's going to be even harder on field 1, because our canola crop has flowered. So with that thick cover of yellow flowers on top of the field, it's going to be almost impossible to see where has and hasn't been fertilised. This is why we're having to rely on our workers a little bit. Hopefully the barley will be a little bit easier for us to see over on field 19. Keeping my fingers crossed on that one. We're down to 2,200 litres. We're going to need more, I think, to do all 3 fields, but we'll certainly be able to get field 1 done with this, I think. Get past our cows. There's our greenhouses. We'll actually stop and check the levels while we're here, just to see whether or not we do need to top them up quickly, or if they're going to be okay for a little bit longer. Let's just jump out and have a quick look. Manure is pretty much gone. So yeah, we're definitely going to need to top those greenhouses up. But let's try and get this done first of all. And this is what I mean about impossible to see through the crop. I mean, it's just so thick and dense right now. So we'll have to kind of manually guess our border like this. And then really carefully just kind of straighten everything out. A worker is going to be absolutely essential for this field. It's going to be nigh on impossible to see any progress that we're making without referring to our menu, which means it's also going to be incredibly easy for us to miss patches all the way along this field as well. So you can see here we're starting to straighten out. There'll be a little patch over here that we'll have to come back and do manually. Hopefully we'll have enough working width to be able to cover all of that in a single run. Oh yeah, we should be fine on that. Absolutely fine. There we go. If we stop spraying just there and start again just here. And if we straighten out, are we done? Yes, excellent stuff. So we'll do our border around the other edge, and then same again down that side. We'll do a border over there. And which way is the field step? Okay, so we need to start wide at this end of the field, and it'll narrow as we move across or move up the field. There we go, we're getting good coverage all the way across there. Excellent stuff. And then hopefully we'll be able to actually see the crop change, or at least see the area where we're fertilising here on 19, so that we can save a little bit of worker cost and do that one ourselves. The crop won't be as thick. It'll be a little bit like it was with the wheat, so we should theoretically be alright on that one, theoretically. Probably should have done this earlier in the year, getting this fertilizer stage applied, but we kind of got distracted with other things. Certainly got distracted with my new bale stacking option, didn't I? Let's step in just a little bit. There we go. Like I say, I don't want to miss anything on this edge just here. There we go. And if I start to straighten out about here, we might actually end up spraying through the field onto the edge of field 19 there. If I stop there and we come back down to this end, we are probably going to end up spraying through the hedge here, which might not necessarily be a bad thing. Cut down on some of the fertilizer that needs to be put down on the field. I get right up, trying to avoid driving through the hedge like that. There we go. We spray here. At least catch a little bit of the edge of field. Field 19 there, just a little bit. Nope, it's stopping. Worker doesn't like that little bit. Let's try again. So how's that looking? Yeah, a little bit of an overlap there. Are we going to be able to cover everything up to where we've already sprayed? That's going to be the tricky bit. Yes, we are. Excellent stuff. So all that remains now is to put a border down here and then potentially just tidy up this little bit here, and that's field 19 taken care of. So I'll crack on with this, and I'll see you in a little while. Field 1 is done, and we're down to just 850 litres exactly of fertilizer left, so we do need to have a little bit of a top up. Let's see, that's the liquid, so this one. There we go. Just get the lid opened up and stick a little bit more fertilizer in here. There we go, another 3,000 litres. That probably won't be enough to do all of field 19 and all of field 18, but it'll certainly be enough to make some good headway on field 18 once 19 is done. And we are, a little limited on cash, so I don't leave us completely broke again. Just over 1,000 in there. That'll cover wage costs, and once this is done, we are going to have to get those greenhouses up and running just to make sure that we do have a source of income. There's a little bit of water left in the tanks, I think, given that our tomato crop is still there and hasn't died out yet. So definitely do need to make sure that they get done today. But next, it's time to work on field 19. And there we go, we are done with field 19. So we just take a look. There we go, full coverage across the entire field. Excellent stuff. So let's get the fertilizer spreader put away. We'll make our way over to the cows. We'll clean out the cows and use the manure from the cows to also top up our greenhouses at the same time. We don't need to worry about giving them extra feed, I think, at this stage. They should still be flying for food, although I think we do have a little bit of food left in the mixer, so I might just top that stuff up, drop that in there while we're cleaning out the food mix. I've got an idea what I want to do. I think it was Neil suggested this to me a while back, that I use the mixer to store any silage that gets thrown out of the food trough. And while I didn't want to do that initially, we do now have enough of a buffer with our TMR for us to go ahead and do that. We have a little bit of an emergency supply of food for when the TMR runs out. So let's get this put away. Try and back this in without hitting any walls or doors. Angle that towards the corner. Excellent stuff. Right, there we go. Let's get hooked up to our equipment again. There is that little extra weight that I bought from the store on the way back last night. Just a small 1150 rather than the big 1800s. It's purely just a, as I say, give us a little bit of counterbalance for when we're doing pallet work or moving manure. Speaking of, we're not going to need these pallet forks anymore, so we need to swap those out for the silage cutter. So we'll do that in here. There we go, pallet forks dropped off. Attach the cutter. Back our way out, and I do need to drop the weight off temporarily actually, just to move some bits out of the way. There we go. The weight does not play well, unfortunately, with the water trailer. So let's go top up the water levels on our greenhouses. I did have a quick look, and unfortunately I can't actually really improve the slope around the first of our two greenhouses. There's something about this map, and I'm not quite sure what it is, but for whatever reason, once you place an area or place one of these greenhouses down, you can do initial work smoothing stuff out when you place it, but if you save the file and then close the game and then reload, you can't do it. So I can't raise this little bit of ground here. This is now set in stone, and the only way I could possibly do something with that might be to remove it, and even then I'm not 100% certain I'd actually be able to change the heights. So yeah, we're kind of stuck unfortunately with the terrain moulded as it is now on that bit there. It's not the end of the world, but it's a little frustrating that I can't smooth it out like I was able to with this second greenhouse just here. Just going to raise this up so we don't get it caught on the fence, because I've got to get really close to the fence. There we go. And as our water levels topped up, so now we need to do the manure. Make sure that those greenhouses are giving us a nice little bit of cash. And I've come up with another idea for how easy it's going to be for us to actually get some of our bits and bobs kind of interacting with each other as well. In terms of being able to store... May as well top this up. There we go. In terms of being able to put leftover food into the mixer, I'm going to push it right up against the wall in here so that I can just tip it over the wall into the side of the mixer. You can see the blades are spinning there. There's no power in it, so I'm not quite sure why the blades keep doing that. But I have noticed that every time I go in that shed, those blades are spinning. It's some kind of a bug. I'm not quite sure what's causing that. Let's just dump out the last of the food that's in here, though. There we go. So I want to put this right up against the wall. Push it back a little bit more. And now I can just literally just drop the food over the wall into the side of the mixer there. Just going to make things nice and easy. You can see we're lurching around a bit because of the weight of the cutter being raised up in the air like that, making the tractor a little unbalanced. That'll help us now. A little bit more weight at the front of the tractor. We'll get this put in next to our mixer. There should be enough room to get these side by side. Perfect, look at that. Excellent stuff. Right, we need the weights. I need to be round the other side of it, don't I? And I might get rid of that trailer today as well. Again, we don't need that anymore, really. So we may as well go and reclaim a little bit of cash for that, I suppose. It's just sitting there, and you know, we're not transporting bales with that anymore. Seems very little point in us keeping it. It's way too big for the occasional bit of pallet work that we're going to need it for. So we can always replace it with something much, much smaller going forward, if we do need a pallet trailer. So we scoop up all of the leftover food here. This is just silage that's being spat out here. And of course, seeing as we're just doing a hay and silage mix, we can use this in the next mix. Our mixer needs silage and 1 bale of hay, but the mix can go as extreme as 25 and 75%, you know, between hay and silage. So that extra just under 4,000 litres of capacity can be just used up with little bits of food mix. I just need to make sure like that I don't overfill it. So I think what I'll do is I'll actually grab one of each bale. I'm going to move the extractor out of the way. Need to take that with us. Shouldn't really be lifting it off the ground quite so extremely like that, but needs must, I suppose. Drop that down there. Now, can I stab a single bale? Some lights on. Haha, it will not work as a spike. Interesting. I was not expecting that. So, we're going to need to drop that off. I'll just use the pallet forks for this rather than messing around with the spike itself. A bit quicker and easier. If we put in the 8,000 litres of material for the TMR, we know that we're going to have the right mix and we're not going to overfill with silage. And then when that's full, we can just go and tip it into our food trough. It's almost like a drive-through window, isn't it? It's just hand your goods through the side counter. There we go. So now we can just keep tipping silage into that from food waste until that trough is full, or until the mixer is full, and then we know that we haven't over-mixed our ratio, and that it will still count as TMR. Plus we can tidy everything up at the same time, which is good. So that's the food bit done. We just need to worry about manure now. So let's close, going the wrong way. Let's close this gate and we'll open this one. Come on, gate, open. There we go. And I'll get the manure into our food troughs at the, our manure troughs at the greenhouses, and then the rest of the manure I will dump into the pit. So I will see you in just a moment. Okay, so the cows are done, the greenhouses are topped up, and our fields are fertilised. So now it's time to go and have some fun, to play around with our new bale extractor. You can see it's attached up behind us just there. We're on our way over to the BGA. And I've got my bale spikes attached at the front as well. Let's just slow down a bit so we can match traffic. So the plan is to build some tubes of silage bales that we can just leave to ferment at the BGA. I'm not sure how easily we can actually build up sort of long, consistent tubes right next to each other. That might be a little bit trickier in terms of getting them out the back of the extractor. So we might have to potentially kind of go in and nudge them a bit closer together. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be possible or not. But we have plenty of space for a few rows, which is good because we've got a lot of bales. And we'll start with that partial sort of group of bales that we brought over, which was the final lot of bales on the field. We'll start with those. I'm not sure how many bales per tube we'll be making. That's the other thing as well. We're going to end up with quite a few tubes of bales, I think, and then we can just open those up, one at a time to throw in. We don't have to sell all of our silage bales at once. We can do it in stages. So I'm going to wait past the past the stables there. And here we come up to the BGA. So, as I was saying, we did get the guys from Eurotunnel come over and install a new storage unit for us. As you can see, there it is. A little bit wider, a little bit taller. And this means that I can, but a little bit shorter. So it's not quite the same length as it was before. It's taller and wider but shorter. But there's enough clearance now for me to actually drop the bales and pull through without clipping this roof section just here at the front, that lip that sticks down. So that's a good thing. Let's get this extractor set up. Trying to remember which way around I'm going to need to place this. The other way round. In fact, actually, let's drop that off just there, because we can drive that manually. They are motorised. Let's move this into position. There we go. Oops. So it looks like we're going to be building quite a few short wraps. We might possibly even end up, depending on how easy they are, we might end up potentially stacking some of these wraps on top of each other. But if we start here, I guess, we look like we're in a relatively straight line. What we might need to do, we'll see how this goes, but what we might need to do is actually have another storage unit built somewhere else, just for the bales themselves, you know, that are wrapped in tubes. I don't know. We're all kind of playing around with this a little bit at the moment, aren't we? So I want to get a little bit of extra stability as well. So the weight that we stashed down here is just there. I think what I might possibly do, I might take that back to the farm for the 6R, because we're going to leave one pretty much, I think, permanently attached to the 7R now. I might take that back and then get another small weight. We'll have to see. Let's get some working lights on at the front. And let's start wrapping our grass bales. Now, going forward, this is probably not going to be something that's useful for Seasons gameplay when Seasons comes out. If grass rots in the same way that it did in FS19, you know, because by the time you actually get these bales in here and start wrapping them, you know, they're going to have, you know, rotted away a little bit, so they're going to be a lot less than full. So, I mean, I suppose you could go with that, but you'd have to kind of get to them pretty quickly, like just little batches of bales. Or, you know, if in multiplayer, then obviously that's going to be easier. You can have someone wrapping, or someone baling, someone collecting, and then someone wrapping, you know, as a trio. But for single player, this might not be a particularly useful piece of equipment in Seasons itself. We'll have to wait and see how grass rot is going to work in Seasons 19 when that comes out. So it may preclude using one of these. You can see our bales are wrapping. And once we get to the end and they start pushing out the back of the extractor, you actually see that will start to push itself forward. And drop those bales behind it. So that extractor will move closer towards the front of the shed. Now, I'm not 100% certain that we're going to be in the best position where we are here. We might potentially have to pull it forward a bit for the next one. We'll see. Drop that one off. It gets pushed down and the next bale gets wrapped into the tube. Oops, I'm a little bit further forward than I thought I was there. And there we go. You can see the extractor actually pushing itself forward. So now that the bales are on the ground, and that's worked out perfectly, look. Right into the back of the cover there. The extractor is starting to edge its way forward down the tunnel here. I don't think we're going to have enough space to get all of these in. Oops. Well, we're definitely not going to have enough space to get all of these in. This is potentially going to be a little bit problematic. So we're definitely going to need somewhere else, I think, to actually build the tubes of silage bales. We can store the actual grass bales in here, but going forward beyond that, to store the long silage tubes, we might need to actually look at getting another little shed built or something. We'll build a few in here. We'll probably end up kind of ignoring bale rot a little bit this time out, just so that we can try and fine-tune our process for getting these grass bales wrapped, because there just isn't going to be enough space to get all of these bales done. So we'll get the first batch sold off to raise some cash. Then we'll look at building an extra shed somewhere down here that we can actually get the bales wrapped into. And then we'll get the whole lot wrapped from there. So that'll be a busy day when it comes to getting all of these wrapped. It's certainly a slower process. There's no denying that, but you know, it's kind of a cool, fun process. It's something a little bit different, isn't it? Being able to wrap up these long tubes of bales over the traditional way of wrapping them individually. And of course, you know, in reality and in seasons, you know, it takes it takes a third of your season for these to ferment. In the game, you know, these are silage right now. So theoretically, I could go ahead and I could just immediately open and sell these bales, but I don't want to do that. I do want to try and maintain some of that illusion of seasons that we're trying to create. So we won't be selling these bales for the next couple of days, the ones that we've just wrapped right now. We'll give them that time to ferment. What happens if we try and put a bale in sideways? Will it automatically spin it around, or will it just not accept it? Let's see. Yeah, it just automatically configures it. I figured that would be the case. And I think that is it for number of bales per tube. Yeah, it is. That's kind of right at the edge of the shed, look. So that's going to be how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bales per tube. That's not too bad. So how do I unload this thing? It's been a while since I've tried this out. Oh, L3. And there we go. Bales are unloaded. See a little pusher there, just shoving the bales back. Now that is slightly wonky. We do ideally want those to be up against the wall of the shed a bit better. There's just no room to turn in here, is there? Let's see if we can nudge those bales back a little bit. We do have lights on this as well, which is kind of helpful. Let's try pushing from this side instead. Caught on the bale. That's not good. It's really weird as well, trying to get used to the rear wheel steering on this, and I don't think I've got enough power to actually shove these bales back. I might have to do this with the tractor. Yeah. Alright, okay. So I need to move this out of the way. We're learning how to how to mess around with these stacks at the moment, so I'm going to drop the spikes down here. Out of the way. And just use the front loader as a kind of a little pusher. Like that. Let's try and push this wrap a bit closer to the wall. You see that the bales aren't staying in a perfectly straight line. It's not one solid, you know, connected piece. The bales are kind of connected, but they will behave independently of themselves. So you can end up having like almost like a weird curvy sausage of bales, as you can see. Let's give that a little nudge like that. Let's see if I can just push these couple in a bit more. So they're kind of connected and they're kind of not connected at the same time. And I've gone into the side of the frame a little bit too much there, I think. Yeah, with that one bale's just gone in a little bit too much, but it's not too bad. And it's given us a bit more room to work with. So, now that we've kind of figured it out a little bit, and we know that 12 bales will fill the width on this, let's try and position this a little bit better, and again see if we can stay in a straight line this time as well as we pull the machine forward. And once again we want to look for that yeah, we're in the wrong spot here. Oh, it's so weird. I'm never quite sure which button I need to press to maneuver this thing. In which direction I need to be turning or steering. There we go. L2 in this direction. L2 is forward. And I'm not sure whether I'm not even sure which way round. I mean, that's rear lights there, so I'm assuming that, you know, the front of it here with the ramp, that's forward, which means that's reverse. And certainly in terms of the controls, that's how it works. You know, that's reversing and that's going forward. But with the steering, it's, you know, being on the rear wheels there, it's kind of, you want to try and drive it like a tractor, like almost every vehicle in the game, and it actually drives a bit more like a harvester with rear wheel steering. It's a little bit clunky the first time or two that you use it. So we've got our first stack of bales in. Let's make a start on the second one. I might be able to get another couple of stacks in here, you know, reasonably well. I'm not going to have space for all of these bales, I don't think, but we'll certainly do as many as we can. Just need to be wary of distorting and disturbing the everything a little bit too much. Oops, and I just shoved it out the back there, didn't I? I might have to drive it forward a little bit. We'll get away with that, I think. Just have to be careful not to shove it again. Oh, have I changed its angle slightly? I don't know. I'll have to keep an eye on it. Yeah, that doesn't look as square as it was. I think I might need to reposition it slightly. So I'll keep working away, getting some more of these bales done, and I'll catch up with you with a progress report in a little while. Okay, so I made a little bit of a mistake with these ones. I ended up sticking out too far at the back, and trying to pull this forward to hopefully pull the stack forward with me didn't work. It just kind of caused some issues, so I had to then kind of back that back into position, stick another bale in to see if that would continue, because the bale was hanging up in the air like it was still attached to the tube. And that didn't work, and then I accidentally unwrapped a bale. But it gives us a chance to actually get a real close-up of one of these silage bales here. They do look kind of cool, don't they? So I've managed to get most of them wrapped, as you can see. I think I might possibly be able to get all of the stacks in here, actually. I was a little worried that I might not be able to do it, but going forward, I think this is actually going to be something that is doable. So I'm going to carry on wrapping away. I'm actually going to pull these bales out of the way, first of all. Kind of get these just here on the side of the bunker, like this. And I'm going to try and get the rest of these bales wrapped. We do have that one loose silage bale now, and then that one loose wrapped bale. So I'm going to sell those just to get them out of the way. And so they don't cause any issues if the stacks, you know, get pushed around. Because I'm going to try and perhaps nudge the stacks a little bit, get them closer to each other, just to make sure I can definitely get the rest of these in. and I don't want to have those 2 loose bales just kind of flapping and rolling all over the place. So we will sell those 2 right now. We won't obviously get the money till midnight, but they will give us a little bit of extra digestate in our tank. That's something else we need to check as well. We need to check how much digestate we actually have. I'm not too sure yet. There we go, it's the first bale in. It's so weird seeing these bales without wrap on them like that. They do look cool though, don't they? You can see it says silage on there as well. I actually really like the look of that, the visual look of the silage bale. It's pretty awesome. But there we go. Right. Second silage bale in. That'll give us some extra cash. Where is our unload point? It's over here, I think. Let's quickly turn on the help window and drive over and have a look. I think this is where we get our... it's not going to give us the window, is it? Not without the right kind of trailer. Alright, so I have no way of knowing how much digestate I currently have. But I'll continue sort of getting these bales wrapped, and I'll see you once they're pretty much all done. Okay, so these are the last 3 bales, and I've got 4 complete stacks of 12 and then a partial stack of 9, which is the one I made that mistake on. But we have 3 bales left over, so fingers crossed I'll be able to just push that stack of 3 forward and sort of push it in line with the 9 to make a full stack of 12, albeit with that little bit of separation between them. And that'll give us 60 silage bales here that we can leave to ferment over the next couple of days, and then come back and start selling off. We don't have to sell them all in one go, we can sell them piecemeal if we need to. There we go, last one. Let's just jump on board and give the bales an unload. Perfect, look at that. So, there we go, 60 silage bales. Ready and waiting. Amazingly good stuff. So, I'm going to drop the weight back off over here. Weight, there we go. Leave that just there. Let's go connect up to our extractor and return to the farm, and then start closing down for the day. We have no more jobs left to do, and then hopefully we'll get some growth on our corn and our soybean overnight, and we can get ready to start fertilizing those tomorrow. And then we'll look and see what other jobs we can take on. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jumbo, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor and the start of our summer period very soon.